live in abject fear of the one that we're supposed to be connected to, because they've told us you gotta walk this tightrope and this line, and if you walk along the line, he's gonna send you to hell. You could live 30 years worshiping and living for him, make one error, and if you die in that error, you go into hell. What in the name of common sense does that mean? Are you crazy? Why would I even serve him if he's that sadistic and masochistic? I don't need a God like that. And so if I am so focused on staying on the line, I can't fulfill my assignment. But my God is big enough to handle my fault, my strokes, grubs, my mess ups, because he's already prepared for what I might do. He knows what I'm going to do before I do it, and he already made preparation for me before I get there.
What follows darkness is light. That darkness is the indicator that light is getting ready to shine. So there it is in Genesis, when darkness was upon the face of the deep, and God in the spirit form moved upon the face of the waters, and then God said, let there be. Because darkness precedes the light. Are you understanding what I'm saying? But he needs the darkness there so that God can move upon the face of the deep, so that the shift can take place. Listen, look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor that shift take place in the darkness. Oh, God, y'all didn't hear what I just said. Everybody's not going to see the shift that's happening. They see the chaos, but they don't see the shift. They see all the craziness going on in your life, but they don't understand that underneath the darkness, God is moving in secret. He's moving in quiet. He's moving in the hidden places. He's moving in the cracks and the corners and the crevices. He's moving in places that you cannot see. And when the light comes, they're going to see a new order. timing. And so the universe then has no choice. First attribute of the secret place. The secret place is a place of revelation. It makes you free because it awakens you and makes you consciously aware that everything that you thought was holding you is an illusion.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Emerge movement. I'm your host, Isaac Miles, and this is the place where you can receive empowerment that will help you on your journey towards spiritual wholeness. I am so excited and glad that you decided to join us for this conscious conversation this evening. It's going to be, I think, epic. It's going to be intense. It's going to be a really great conversation piece. And it stems from an early morning awakening this morning, I guess around about 3:45 this morning, and a vision that I saw and heard, and it just kind of sent me on a path, and I started this whole conversation began to unfold. And so I wanted to have it with those of you who are here. I'm going to give a few moments for a few others to jump on, even though I don't know why they don't go ahead and jump on while we're doing the countdown. That's what that whole countdown is for, so everybody can get in place. But go ahead and tag and share with as many people as you choose and invite them to come and be a part of this conversation. Now, it is going to challenge you. I will say that from the top. It will challenge you, especially those of us who were raised in the Christian faith and have been taught one particular perspective from the Bible. It will challenge you. I am telling you up front, it is going to be challenging. But if you will approach the conversation with an open mind, and not from a fundamentalist point of view, but more of a esoteric, iconoclastic understanding, a spiritual understanding of the allegories and stories and narratives that are used in the scripture, then I think this is going to really help you. It's going to really bless you. So I am looking forward to having the conversation. I'm trying to give just a few more minutes for a few other people to jump on before I jump into the middle of the conversation. We're going to talk about, have the conversation based on the title, A New Heaven and a New Earth. A New Heaven and a New Earth. This is going to be good. This is going to be good. Hope you have all had a really good day, had a great, restful, peaceful, productive day. Whatever it is that you were doing, whether you were at work or you were in school or you had some time off today and you were just spending time sitting on the beach or doing some other things around the house, running errands. I hope that whatever you were doing was productive and that you found joy in every place that you went. That if you didn't find it, you brought it. Okay? That you were the joy and you were the peace wherever you went. All right, so I'm going to get started. There's only a handful of us on here. That's okay. What's going to happen is, and after much consultation with a number of people, thank you for all of you who inboxed me, emailed me, as well as sent me text messages about having a regular time that will come on and being consistent with that. And we're going to do that. We're going to be coming on every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. That's our Sunday empowerment service or empowerment session. And then every Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. Will be our midweek empowerment session. So every Sunday at 9 a.m., every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. So you can set your clock, set your schedule, so that you can make sure that you're present, and you can sign up for the free text notification so that in case you forget, you will receive a text to remind you that we will be on at those specific times. You'll get a text at least 30 minutes or to an hour before we get ready to come on the air, so that you'll be able to position yourself to participate in the conversations. If you want to know how to, let me see if I can find this here, how to sign up for the free text notifications. Here it is. It is now scrolling at the bottom of your screen. All you have to do is follow the instructions you see there. You just text the word emerge to the number that you see scrolling at the bottom of your screen, and you're automatically signed up. Doesn't cost you anything. It's absolutely free. It's just a way to keep you informed so that you'll know when we're getting ready to come on. So if you haven't signed up for it, go ahead and do that now. Free text notification, and every now and then it says inspirational text. I don't do that every day, but every now and then I'll send out a word of inspiration, encouragement, empowerment, or some fresh revelation that I've received really quickly, and I'll just send it out to all of the partners. So if you want to, you can sign up for that. It's there on the screen. All right. So this phrase, a new heaven and a new earth, those of you who grew up in church, you have either heard it before, read it before in your Bible, either in the Old or the New Testament, or both. You've heard it most often probably at funerals, where people were talking about the new heaven and new earth and new Jerusalem coming down out the sky and so on and so forth. Or you have heard it at a revival where they were talking about the apocalypse and the end of things and the last days and the, and the tribulation. And then there's going to be this new heaven and new earth, that the whole world is going to be renovated. And this new heaven is going to come floating down out the sky, this big giant city, and set its throne down on the earth for 1,000 years, and then it'll go back up in the sky, and then everything starts over here on the planet. And that is normally where most people have been taught that that's what those particular texts are talking about. They are taught it from the very literal standpoint. And so they are looking for this literal new heaven and new earth, whatever their imagination is of what heaven is, coming down out of the sky and then being present in the earth. Now, just to say that is what I need for you to do, is to open your mind to the possibilities and the reality that it is not talking about a literal place or three-dimensional tangible city. Okay. I know you've been told that there's this city with 12 gates and pearls, made of pearls, and gold streets of gold, and you get a starry crown, golden slippers, and you sit at the welcome table and eat milk and honey one of these wonderful days, and every day will be Sunday, and always howdy, no more goodbye. See my mama, my sister, my cousin, my brother, my daddy, my everybody else there, And if indeed this heaven, as it has been described to us, was a literal place, why would there need to be a new one? What's wrong with the old one? What's wrong with the one that exists right now? Is it somehow broken, contaminated? Why do you need a new one if it's the kind of heaven, if it literally exists in the manner in which we've all been taught? Why do you need a new heaven? Did they run out of room? Is heaven overcrowded? Is it not? Did the rent go up and people can't afford to be there anymore? I mean, I'm being silly now, but I'm just saying. What did it get overcrowded? Are there too many people? Is there not enough room? Is it not big enough? Is there a flaw in the design? Is it contaminated? Is it polluted? No flesh and blood can inherit this place, right? You can't go into heaven in human form. So then there shouldn't be any contaminants there, but for whatever reason, if we're taking it from the literal standpoint, why would you need to create a new one? Yes, they always do, Kiwi. They always talk about that new heaven and new earth right in front of the casket as they're walking out, at funerals. They also talk about, I am the resurrection and the life, and I go to prepare a place for you. And none of those things have to do with death or anything along those lines. They really have nothing to do with that. If I go out, prepare a place for you, that where I am, you may be also. It's a tradition, but it is scriptural text taken out of its proper context, and people have imposed a particular meaning upon it that is purely, it's just purely false. It's purely false, and it doesn't even make logical sense. Again, why do you need a new heaven if the heaven already exists in some literal form? Then what's wrong with the heaven that's there now? Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So, what do these terms mean? New heaven, new earth. Before I get into the definition of the terminology, I want to start by sharing. Yes, we're already where spirit is, Theresa. That's absolutely right. Okay. I want to start by sharing the vision that I had this morning. As I said, I was awakened around about 3:45 this morning. Got up, had a very lucid, vivid dream about a particular person, and so I sent them a text to try and let them know what the dream was. And then, I thought I was going to be able to just lay back down afterwards, and it was like, no, I still got more to say, got something else to show you. So I had to get up and come sit, and as I was sitting, it was as though I was positioned somewhere, I'll say in space, looking at the earth. I'm going to say in space. I'm not exactly sure whether I was in space or in a different dimension or time, but I was looking at the earth. I could see planet Earth clearly. And all of a sudden, the entire planet was engulfed in water. No land mass whatsoever, just all water. And then these clouds and smoke just surrounded everything. Okay. And I heard very clearly the Spirit says, behold, I make all things new. And I was like, wow, okay. I'm familiar with that particular statement. I just never seen a visualization of it. Then the smoke receded and the waters pulled back, and there was, the firmament or the land mass as well as waters there. Then the whole process started again. And the waters again crested and began to encompass the entire earth where there was no land, and the smoke or clouds began to cover over the entire planet. And I heard again the Spirit of God saying within me, this time, behold, we make everything new. And I know if you're paying attention, you caught the difference there. In the first time, he said, behold, I make all things or everything new. The second time he says, behold, or it says, behold, we make all things or everything new. And that's where the vision ended. And then revelation began to emerge within me. And I started to try and write as much as I could and remember as much as I could from what I was hearing. And that is the genesis of this conversation. And so you saw, if you pay attention to my page, those of you who are my friends and follow along, you saw me post this morning. I made a post this morning about we are still in the midst of a great awakening of consciousness in humanity, that we are in the midst of a great awakening of consciousness in the midst of humanity, that more and more all of humanity is starting to realize, are starting to become consciously aware of their own divinity and aware that there is something within them that is bigger than just them. They're starting to become consciously aware of their connection with the all of everything, and then consequently their connection with everyone and everything. Because clearly, if you are connected or one with the all of everything that is God, then you understand that in order to be one with God, I am consequently one with everyone and everything. And so that awakening of consciousness, is creating, for the first time, I think, now, and you can't quote me on this piece because I haven't done the research completely, but from the researching that I have done over the years, I think this is the first time that humanity has began to recognize its oneness or connection with the divine or with the all of everything or with God, creator, outside of the realms of religion. Let me say that again. I think, and again, I could be wrong about this piece right here, but from what I can remember, this is the first time that humanity has began to recognize, acknowledge, and embrace its oneness with the all of everything, its own divinity, its connection with the creator or with God outside of the parameters of religion. Now, let me quantify that for a second, because and I want to make sure that I make this point very, very clear. Okay, there is a real difference between religion and spirituality. And I need you to understand the difference. And I also need you to understand that there is no bad and good in this, in this equation. Religion, in its original formation, every religion that exists to this day, in its original formation, had the intent of facilitating mankind's connection or being reminded of their connection with God. That was the original intent, the original design. Every religion's original design, their original intention for the birth of that particular religion was to be a conduit through which humanity, mankind, could be reminded of their connection with God and interdependence upon all of humanity. It is only when ego got involved, that egoic mind, and the ego is the best way to define the ego is when anything that you relate to self and not your true self, but to stuff and things and tangible. My car, my house, my this, that, or the other, my church, my faith, my religion. And so when ego got involved, then religion evolved or devolved and became, more so about somehow solidifying a particular set of beliefs, a system of belief that was tethered and tied to a particular religious ideology. It went from being a conduit and a facilitator to now becoming a cage, a prison, or a club that you become a part of and you can't ever leave. And because human ego got involved in each of these religions, then they became personally invested in being right, to the point of that they were the only ones right and everyone else was wrong. And please understand, I'm not just talking about, Christianity. Christianity is included, but Islam, Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, every religion became personally invested in their being right. And so the adherents to those ideologies had to pledge their fealty to the religious system of beliefs or ideas or concepts, their faith. You have to pledge your fealty to that to the exclusion of everything else. The word religion actually at its root has the word rigidity, because religion demands a rigid adherence to a system of beliefs or a belief system, a certain tenets of their particular faith that you must pledge your fealty to. You must remain loyal to the exclusion of everything else, and that you can't question it, you can't doubt it, you can't disobey it, you certainly cannot correct it, because it is absolute. In Christianity, the terminology that's used, Bible, it denotes the idea that this book is absolute, correct, inerrant. You hear this all the time, that it is inerrant from Genesis to Revelation, absolute truth, the Word of God. And that's what the Muslims believe about the Quran. And that's what the Hindu believe about the Bhagavad Gita. And that's what every particular religion believes about its dogma or its book of fealty, book of beliefs. and that you have to be tied to those beliefs and pledge your loyalty to them in order for you to be a good Muslim, good Christian, good Jew, a good Hindu, a good Buddhist. Are you understanding? That's religion. Spirituality, here is the difference. Spirituality is focused on expanding consciousness to the inclusion of all things. It is opening yourself, your conscious mind, to the possibilities, to the infinite possibilities. It recognizes truth in all its forms, and it recognizes that truth in all its forms, from all of its locations, is fluid. Let me say that again. People are like, no, the truth is the truth. No, truth is fluid. It's not absolute, because what is true today was not true in 1960 and was not true in 1730, which was not true in 1216, which was not true in 36 BC. Are you understanding? It is evolving, unfolding, revealing, proceeding. And so even Jesus is purported to have said, mankind shall not live by bread alone, okay? That is, that which is tangible, manageable, but by every rhema word, rhema, that is living, breathing, unfolding, revealing, evolving thought or idea that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Proceedeth, meaning that it is continuously flowing. The idea that God stopped speaking when the writers of the Bible died and didn't say anything, hasn't said anything else since that time. God stopped speaking when the Bhagavad Gita was written, or when the Quran was written, or the book of Tao was written. And then that's it. God has ceased to speak. And if it speaks again, it's going to speak in concert and alignment with the train of thought of the men who wrote the books in their time. It's not going to say anything relevant to this time. Certainly nothing that will contradict that time. It just doesn't make sense. Okay? So spirituality understands that truth is an evolving, unfolding thing that we are elevating in our understanding of truth as we grow and expand in our consciousness. And so we are not tethered and tied to any particular religious ideology or dogma, but we recognize that all truth emanates from God, and God is ubiquitous in its presence. So that truth may proceed from various places at various times and various sources. That truth flows. Okay? That is the difference between religion, spirituality. I said all of that to say that the idea that because religion has promoted the idea of a literal, tangible place called heaven, and then therefore, like they have a literal place called hell, and therefore they promote the idea that one day, the creator of all things is going to do away with this perfect utopic place that we have always called heaven. I dream of a place called heaven, and we sing about it. I'm gonna put on my robe, tell the story, how I made it over. Grandma, don't worry about grandma. She's with the Lord in heaven right now. But she's in an imperfect heaven that's got to be torn down. And so that a new heaven, so she'll get moved from her old mansion in heaven and moved to a different mansion in the new heaven. Come on, y'all. Okay. So then what is the Bible referring to? What is understood to be new heaven and new earth? We see this reference in the Bible in both the Old and the New Testament. Now, here's the thing that might shock you. You find the same references to a new heaven and new earth in the Quran, and you find it in the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead. It's not even an original idea. They are allegorical terms used to try and describe something that they did not have the vocabulary in their time to adequately describe in a manner that we would comprehend today with a full understanding of what is meant. They spoke in very flowery, allegorical, poetic language, new heaven and a new earth. But this new heaven and new earth is not speaking in terms of the literal destruction of this planet and the literal destruction of the present heaven up in the sky, and then there being a new earth that is formed, and then a new city up in the sky that's going to come down out the sky and sit on the planet and then go back up in the sky. Okay, so I know that when you look at it, you got to know that just doesn't even make logical sense. It sounds ridiculous, but that's what we've been taught all of these years. So then, what do these phrases mean? This is where the conversation gets a little interesting, and where I went with this morning. The new heaven. We understand that heaven is not a literal place, but heaven refers to the inner realm of consciousness. It is our higher consciousness. It is our intuitive knowing. It is that divine place, divine part of our being. It refers to the inner realm of consciousness. This is an esoteric meaning of the word heaven, but it is also the meaning that Jesus uses when he talks about heaven and earth. And earth, on the other hand, then, is the outer manifestation in form of the image created in the higher realm of consciousness. Remember the law. Your outer world of form and experience is a reflection, a manifestation of your inner world of thought and feeling. That we all live within the matrix of the reality that we create, that we are the God of our garden. So we are living in the world and the reality that we create with our own conscious mind. We live in that reality. And that is an absolute truth. That's a fact. But ladies and gentlemen, we do not exist in a vacuum. We do not exist separate from the rest of humanity or God. We exist as an individuation, a unique individuation of a whole, all emanating from the same place, a different, unique expression of the same God. So if there is then each of us with our own individual conscious creativity of a reality in which we live, our consciousness is not limited to ourselves. There is our individual consciousness, but there is also a collective consciousness where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name. There I am in the midst. It speaks to the idea that this power of agreement of the collective consciousness of humanity and it having a causal effect on the existence of the planet. We cannot, as a collective, think, there's that ego again, think collectively about a thing without bringing it to manifestation. Now, I want you to think about the fact that we've all been taught, and it is a truism, that history has a way of repeating itself. That we keep seeing the same occurrences happen again and again and again and again throughout history, over time, over centuries and millennia. Why? Because we have, as a species, as humanity, we have agreed in our collective consciousness upon certain things that we have accepted as our truth as a society, as humanity. And since that is the dominant thought of our mind, the earth, which we are interconnected with as well, and the universe has no choice but to reflect back to humanity the physical manifestation of its consciousness. Are you understanding what I'm saying? And because humanity has for century and millennia thought from the place of ego, the place of religion, of dominance, survival of the fittest, mine, yours, separatism, we have created a reality that reflects that consciousness. And that no matter how much time passes and how many technological advances we make, and even academic advances, we continue to seem to keep falling back into the same ruts, the same historical happenings and occurrences, because our beliefs, our thoughts, our perceptions as a collective have not changed. As a matter of fact, they have become so dysfunctional in their origin and their conception that they are intensifying in the day in which we live now, creating a more divisive culture or society than we have had at any other time in the history of the planet. Are y'all understanding what I'm saying? All creation, all three-dimensional manifestation is the result of the collective consciousness of the gods of the garden in the earth. In beginnings, God created, singular, heaven and the earth. Okay? Not man, God created heaven and the earth. Man was created before heaven and the earth. We know this based upon from if we believe Ephesians chapter 4, who says that we were chosen in God before the foundations of the world. Then we understand that we had to exist in God before the foundation, before he ever created heaven and earth. Whom he foreknew, them he predestined. You can't foreknow someone or something that doesn't exist. So in order to be foreknown, we had to exist. And according to Ephesians, we existed in God. According to St. John, chapter 1, in beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That word is the Greek word logos. There was a thought, an idea, a concept that was in God. It was God because it was one with God. Are y'all hearing me? It doesn't stop there. And then it goes on to say that word was the life. The word was the life, the Zoe. That word, that thought was alive. It was animated. It was conscious. Are you hearing me? And then it says, and that life, in that life was the light. Knowledge, understanding, insight, revelation, knowing. In that consciousness, that life, that animation was the knowing, the divine knowing, the omniscience of the omnipotent in that knowing. And then God created heaven and earth. Wait, hold on. If you look at the Genesis narrative, the allegorical story of creation, you will see that it is divided into two parts: creation and formation. Now, this is an original because we find the same creation narrative in the Quran. We also find it in the ancient book of the dead, the Egyptian ancient book of the dead. So it's not an original story even, okay? And it follows the same pattern of God creating and then forming. Chapter 1 of Genesis is God creating. Creativity begins in the mind, in the thoughts, in the psyche, in the conscious awareness. And so God thinks the thought and it is. And then in chapter 2, you notice that everything is repeated again, but now the term is used, formed. And God formed man from the dust of the ground. He created man before the foundations of the world. He formed man after the world had already been set in place and been put in form. Then he formed man from the form of the earth, the dust. Okay? So the thought, word, deed process is used, initiated by God itself, which is the same process of creation that we use. Thought, word, deed. We think it, speak it, and then actively do it, and that brings about form or manifestation. Okay, we know this already. That's individual. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to inform you that this is not just an individual work, but also the same process is used with the collective. In the beginning, God created within its thought and then formed. The new heaven and the new earth is when humanity, that is all of God's unique individuations that exist within the earth realm and with across dimensions, begin to shift its collective consciousness to think again. Woo! That is repent. That's what the word repent means, to think again, reconsider, change its mind, to have a different mind. And when the consciousness of the collective shifts, then the earth has no choice but to align itself with the collective consciousness of the divine beings in the earth. Are y'all following what I'm saying? So when it speaks of a new heaven and a new earth, a new heaven is the emergence of a transformed state of human consciousness, and the new earth is its reflection in the physical three-dimensional realm. Let me say that again. Let me say it again. A new heaven is the emergence of a transformed state of human consciousness. When the human consciousness evolves as it is now, where we are starting to now understand our connection and interconnection with God and with each other and with the universe and with nature, and starting to understand our responsibility not only to ourselves, but to each other and to the planet. We are starting to now reshape our thoughts about humanity itself and our existence in this plane of consciousness, and in shifting our mindset, that is the new heaven, new consciousness, new realm of thinking, then the earth has no choice but to respond in kind and reflect the new heaven as a new earth. A new plane of consciousness, a new plane of existence, a new physical three-dimensional realm within the earth. Ladies and gentlemen, if there is going to be a new earth, and there is, if we are going to shift the human experience within this plane of consciousness, this three-dimensional existence, we are not going to do so simply by legislation and laws and marches and protests, and all of those things are necessary to begin to shift the consciousness of the leaders as well as the rest of society. But that is the purpose of those things. It is not about changing the planet. It is about changing the mind of humanity, changing the conscious outlook and perception of humanity. And when the mind, the consciousness of humanity shifts and elevates, it will in turn be reflected in our three-dimensional world. Are you hearing what I'm saying? This is the reason why we have to root out these old rudimentary ideas and concepts and rhetoric and racist, sexist, misogynistic ideologies that are promoted in religion, in culture, in government, in broken, dysfunctional society, and began to now elevate the conscious awareness of humanity, because in that elevation, in that evolutionary leap forward, we will revolutionize our perception and therefore renovate the earth by creating a new heaven, a new higher realm of consciousness. We then will create a new earth. And behold, we do all things new. Are you following me? Yes, that's correct. Yes, that is absolutely correct. That's right. Amen. Are y'all following what I'm saying to you? Since human life and human consciousness are intrinsically one with the life of the planet, as the old consciousness dissolves, there are bound to be synchronicities within the geographic locations and in the climate and within the earth realm. There's bound to be a geographical upheaval within the earth and in many parts of the planet, some of which are already happening right now. We are already witnessing it right now. And so as I admonished you earlier this week, when I talked about you and I as individuals, each living within the matrix of the reality that we create, and that if we want a different reality, we have to make a different choice. Ladies and gentlemen, what is true for us as individuals is true for us as a collective. That if we want a different reality within this earth, if we want a new earth, then we've got to have a new heaven. We got to have a shift, a dramatic, evolutionary, revolutionary leap in consciousness, so that we can place a demand on the earth to conform to the image of our consciousness. That higher consciousness. As we raise our frequency and vibration, as we raise our conscious awareness, as we begin to hold as our collectively our most dominant thought, the thoughts of love and peace and joy and happiness and oneness, then the entire planet and all of nature and the universe has no choice but to reflect back to us that which we have created, that new heaven that has been created within our mind now has to take on form in the earth. A new earth. Are you understanding what I'm saying? And you don't have to buy into any religious ideology. You don't have to be a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or a Buddhist or a Hindu or a Taoist or a Sikh or any of the other things. You can be an atheist. You can be an agnostic. You can be whatever. Whatever you are, it doesn't change the fact that you are a divine being. All we need is for you to elevate your thoughts. Each of us elevating our thoughts. The thoughts of love, working. What would happen to this plane of existence, this three-dimensional world, if we begin to elevate our consciousness collectively and agree to operate from the space of love, from the space of peace, from the space of hope and joy? Every war that has ever been fought has been fought from the space of ego, based upon the egos of men and women and cultures and societies that wanted to be dominant. From that egoic mindset of separation, us and them. What do you think would happen when the collective consciousness of man awakens to the oneness of all humanity, the interdependence of all humanity and society? How do you think it will be reflected back to us in the earth realm? What do you think will manifest in this three-dimensional world if we shift the collective consciousness of humanity? And the great awakening, hey, God, I thank you. And the great awakening that is taking place now in the earth is facilitating and is the catalyst for this type of drastic change as people release themselves from the shackles of culture, of religion, of government, and began to understand that I am not a political party. I am not a culture. I am not a religion. I am a divine being, a unique reflection of the all of everything, and I am interconnected and one with every other individuation in the planet and across the multiverse. And it's a sign, it's an omen, it's a signal that for the first time in my estimation of history, that people are freeing themselves from the shackles of the religious dogma, which has been the overriding bondage of the entire. Do you understand that just about every single war that has been fought in this planet has been fought over religion based upon a particular person, culture, society's idea that they had a God-given right and authority to rule in this place, that place, to dominate this person and that one. Every single one and everyone believes that God is on their side. Every country believes that God is American, God is English and British, God is Haitian, God is Russian, God is... And they operate from that mindset. If the walls, the imaginary, illusionary imprisonment of religion is dismissed and we began to embrace the spiritual and began to understand our connection with the all of everything and every individual, imagine the shift in consciousness when you now understand that I am not separate from you and you from me, but you are a divine reflection of me and I of you and we of God. Then imagine now the earth having to reform itself to reflect back to us that new heaven, new dominant thought, new higher realm of consciousness. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying? Are you hearing what I'm saying? Am I getting through to you? Ask questions if you need to. I want you to. That's the whole point of this conversation. I don't want to just spout words, lofty words. I want you to understand. Okay? A huge, significant portion of the Earth's population will soon begin to recognize, if they haven't already begun to recognize, and I believe that they have, that humanity is now faced with a stark, definite choice. We are either going to evolve or die. We're either going to evolve or cease to exist in this realm. We're either going to evolve or we'll remain as we have been and destroy this plane of consciousness altogether. The dysfunction of egoic human mind recognizes only itself. I'm telling you. And we've got to release that egoic mind and take on, let this mind be in you that was also in the Christ, that Christ consciousness, or the Buddha consciousness, Allah consciousness, whatever what terminology you want to use. A spiritual consciousness and a divine, uplifted, evolved, enlightened consciousness, spirit, to start living from the place of spirit. When you start living from the place of spirit, the substratum of all that is divine and holy is love. And you stop trying to redefine love on your terms to fit your religious ideology. You just simply be love. Love includes acceptance, tolerance, understanding, embracing, grace, mercy, and openness to the possibility that what I think I know, I may not fully know or understand. You become one of the smartest people on the planet the moment you realize that you don't really know everything. That what you know now is in part. And when that which is perfect is come, that which is in part will be done away with. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Okay? Yes. Okay? Diane says, a lot of people are starting to understand the difference, that your life will change so much and you will be happier. And that is absolutely true. Okay? So when the scriptures talk about a new heaven and new earth, it is speaking from a purely esoteric, iconoclastic point of view, a spiritual point of view. Okay? A new heaven, new earth, a higher realm of collective consciousness then being manifested in our three-dimensional experience. Because our outer world of form and experience is a reflection of our inner world of thought and feeling. So I want you to begin to not just focus on your own awakening, but the collective, on not only on what is your highest good and what best serves you, but how you best serve humanity. Martin Luther King said that we can't all be famous, but we can all be great because greatness is found in our service. And I guarantee you that whatever it is that you are doing, whatever your purpose, whatever your calling is in the earth, if you begin to look at it from the perspective of this is my gift, my offering, my service to humanity, it takes on a whole nother light. And you change your entire perspective of how you carry it out. That's how we begin to elevate the collective consciousness of humanity. Whoa, I'm over time. I'm like 15 minutes over. But I want to leave room. If there are any questions, any comments, any inputs, any insights, please don't hesitate. Repeat which part, Diane? Which part? You just said, can you repeat that? I need to know what that you want me to repeat. What that would you like me to repeat? I know I was talking about us shifting our consciousness, raising our vibration, changing our perspective. And when we do that, the quote by Dr. King, that not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great because greatness is reflected in our service. Yes, greatness is reflected or the product of our service. And so if you take what is your purpose, your calling, your passion, and begin to operate in it and function in it from the perspective of how can I not only serve me, but serve humanity, you'll change how you approach it and how you deal with it and how you perform that particular thing. That was Dr. King, profound prophet, man of God. Okay. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, no other comments or input, I'm going to stop because, like I said, I am way over time. I left the free text notification scrolling at the bottom. So those of you who would like to sign up for it, you can do so. That is still scrolling there at the bottom. Sign up, and I will see you back here on Sunday at 9 a.m. If you would like to give and support the work that we are doing, help to build this platform, if you want to just express your appreciation for what we are doing here, you can do so by using any of the means that you see on your screen right now. I greatly appreciate your giving, your support. your acts of love that you and kindness that you show toward me and toward the work that we're doing here with the Emerge movement. Take a moment and pick up your cell phone and do it right now. Use either the Cashapp or the Zelle and give whatever it is that you feel led to give. And so we will greatly appreciate it. All right. So again, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you all on Sunday at 9 a.m. Have an absolutely wonderful night and a very productive tomorrow.